Hey, welcome everyone to this edition of Chops on Top. I'm your host, Will Waller, Phi-Rho 58. Really excited to have special guest, the one and only, Darren Albus, Phi-Rho #1. Welcome, Darren.
Thank you, Will. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I appreciate you getting us together here on a Saturday morning. Uh, a lot of people know about Phi-Rho 51. They know about the Albus brothers, but maybe we could talk today a little bit about how you ended up at Tarleton, maybe some of the stuff you were doing post Tarleton, your professional career, and then we could talk a little bit about some of the experiences that you had back in the day, starting out with Colony and getting into the Zeta, and share some of the experiences that won't get anybody in trouble.
It's going to be a short conversation.
So to get started, how did you end up at Tarleton?
So, grew up out in West Texas in Abilene. So, highly involved in FFA when we would have our contest, meat judging, livestock judging. Those were held at Tarleton, and I really, really loved the campus feel that was there. It was 100 miles from home, right? So that was an easy jaunt back home if need be. And very fortunate there. Was awarded a Houston Livestock Scholarship and ready to go to A&M. And then Tarleton stepped up and offered some more scholarship money.
Yeah.
So I had two brothers behind me. So if I could go ahead and get most of mine paid for, well, if they need a little bit of help from the folks, then maybe be there for them. So we went there. One of the best decisions I ever made.
Yeah,
Clearly. Yeah. So he got there. This is in 1983 now, Will. Okay. So you need to understand that maybe prices were a little bit different back then. So I tell everybody the story. In 1982, Governor Perry decided that wants to spend more money on education, but perhaps maybe the student need to pay a little bit more. So at the time, my 16 hours of tuition for my first semester was $64, $4 an hour. And man, I can make a Houston Livestock Scholarship go a long way.
last 20 years.
Yeah, and until there was South Fork, but that's a different story. But went there, signed up, had taken a couple AP classes and a couple of basics over the summer. And so I was, after those 16 hours, first semester, I was already a sophomore. So it just all kind of worked. Tarleton had a good program and very much in the ag sector. So great ag economics development program. So,
But you did end up eventually going to A&M, right?
I did. By taking some of those basics and getting them out of the way, we got done in 3 years. And so I still had a year left on my Houston Livestock Scholarship. And so on to grad school at A&M. So they very much supported that. And also helped that I had a dear friend from Abilene that was already at A&M. And then Mule came with. So we already had two good roommates, and we had a real good time there also.
I bet you did. Now, along the way, you ended up connecting with Charlie Stenholm and actually served with Charlie for a while. And how did that come about?
Through networking, Matt Brockman had met back at Tarleton, and I was there. He was working for Congressman Stenholm. He was going to go work for the National Cattlemen's Association and said, Darren, I need you to reach out to this person. You're the right guy for the job. Come do this. I was all set to go be a banker, right? Ag banker somewhere. And, well, no, this is a great experience. So Matt Brockman, who's still active in the Cattlemen's Association here in Fort Worth, he's the reason. So went up there. I tell everybody I got there, started the first of the year, and for the first 32 days, I'm there in Washington, D.C. It does not get above freezing. I go, what the hell have I got myself into? Actually lived on the hill, and it was a great experience. It just wasn't for me.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, so we come on back. But Congressman Stenholm was he was one of the last Bow Eagles, right? So
Hmm.
these were they call themselves Democrats only in name only because of the legacy, but they were very conservative in their way of thinking, and so he was a wonderful representative for us in the big country, and just an outstanding gentleman. So that was he wasn't the issue; it was Capitol Hill that was the issue.
So worked for Charlie. I'm sure that folks on the Hill enjoyed meeting somebody like Darren Albus. Uh, a lot of characters, I'm sure, in Congress and on the Hill. Were there any characters back in Lambda Chi that might have helped you get ready for being on the Hill?
You know, it uh, when we set this deal up, right, and uh, we were all social clubs, and then we become fraternities, sororities. We had the interfraternity council. So you're trying to bring in people that you're competitive, right, and trying to bring them together and have like-minded and do what's best for the bigger good.
Right.
So yeah, there was some experiences there that it was again he was a very conservative Democrat, and so you're trying to match a lot of different personalities. And the one thing you always try to impart upon everybody is what is our goal, right? And there's various ways to get there, but we all have to agree on the goal, and it's to do better, right? Well, how do we do better? And that interfraternity council, and we had it even with ourselves. I mean, we still, when we was a social club, who we going to align with, what was the best way for us to go forward, right? So, how do we help each other in school? How do we, be a blessing to our community, right? Those are some kind of things that if you back up and make sure that we all understand what the goal is, right? What
Right.
the ultimate goal, then we can work on the steps. So that was always it's served me well. When we identify these opportunities, right? So I tell the story when I first started working for Case. Uh, it was back in '96, and my boss at the time, we had a great year in '95 and a bad drought in '96. My dealers were drowning in inventory, and I call up my boss at the time, Joe Robinson, and I said, "Mr. Robinson, we got a problem." He says, "No, we don't. No, sir, it's dry. These dealers are, financial capacity is being strained. Man, we got a serious problem." "No, we don't." "Sir, I don't know how else to tell you, but we got a problem." He said, "No, son, what we have here is an opportunity."
Okay.
And I've always carried that with me. So, but no, our early days there when I first got to Tarleton, there was already social clubs. Block and Bridle was always out there. There were several of them that were out there. And there were some that had met during registration that had talked about other social clubs coming. And so I was a, ag guy, but maybe some walks of life that are out there, and so kind of leaned into that. One of the earlier pioneers that many people don't remember was Reuben Avon, and Reuben had started this whole idea of a social club in order to move to become a fraternity, and had done a lot of groundwork. He had some buddies that were at TCU.
Okay.
Okay. And so he got a lot of the information, brought it back. We started building. We would rush and part of that group there. And man, we just put our heads down and went to work. And so again, identified the goal. What's the steps to become a fraternity? And we did that. So uh, it was fast and furious and one of the absolute best times. Now, you also got to remember, Will, back in '83, I said, Governor Perry's going to up the tuition, and it doubled every year. I mean, good gosh, and it was $8 a year the next year. Oh, damn, had to squeeze a couple nickels together. But also, they're raising the drinking age,
Sure.
okay? And they're going to stair step it up. Well, it just so happened us that got in there in '83 were already 18, and then they raised it to 19. Well, we're already 19, and so yeah, the river and South Fork and all those places were open to us, and so it made for some lively times.
Oh, I bet it did.
Yeah.
Uh, And then across the street, we had Bostocks from Bender, but
So
I know that came around a little later.
Bostock was Mark Bostock bought out South Fork, and that's when he changed the name.
That's true. Yeah, because
But
there was SF on the door. Yeah.
yep, it was South Fork, and yeah, it's many of great decisions were not made there.
Yes, I agree. And then your little brother Dennis worked there. I think a lot of us worked in and out, and then we had our chartering party there.
Yep. Yeah. Den was started as a bar back and moved up to main bartender, and I always told him that what has helped extend his college career was being a bartender.
That's that's probably true.
Yeah.
So being one of the first,
Mhm.
I guess you didn't have a big brother.
The TCU chapter helped a bunch come down and they did our initiation for us. But no, I had some good little brothers.
Yeah.
Look a lot like you.
Oh, right. Was there ever any conflict of bringing all these guys together?
Oh, all the time. It was, uh, again, we started making little cliques, right? And we said, guys, no, we're one. Okay. We come from different walks, but again, we still have that one overriding goal, right?
Mm,
We want to be not only a fraternity, but the best fraternity. So, how do we do these things? And so, we'd have all kinds of suggestions. One of the best ones we ever had was how we going to pay for White Rose. Okay. Well, even though tuition was low, we didn't have a lot of money, a bunch of us. And so then we had the idea of the chili cook-off.
right.
And so we decided, how are we going to get this done? Right. And so went to the school. We pitched this idea, and they kind of said, yeah, we don't know about you doing that on school grounds. And we looked everywhere, but we couldn't find what we really wanted. I said, what if we uh, go out to the
Farm.
farm, right? And as we pulled in at the time, like you're heading to the horse barns, back down to the left, a little field down there. They said, we'll be there. Anything we mess up, we'll clean up. Yeah, right. And we're gonna have this chili cook-off. Well, Den had a few connects, right? So we got the beer reasonable, but got the kegs, and we set it up. We charged so much for each team to be there. We tried to do a cover charge for everybody to come in there, but we're doing college kids. What is a college kid really good at?
Sneaking around.
Getting around a cover charge. So the gate didn't pull in a lot, but the beer did, and we made some money, and that was great. And we did it again. You couldn't do that these days.
No, no.
You could not do that these
In
days.
fact, I will tell you, bring that up. That's the reason that I wanted to be beta was because I saw you at Chili Cook Off running that stuff, getting everything together, and I had the opportunity. We had a little change in Alpha, if you remember at the time, and Brent had left his position, and so he was kind of on the sideline, and then Tommy had to step down. So we're like, "Hey, Will, you want to be Alpha?" And
Yeah.
looking back, I should have said, "Yeah, let's do that." But I was thinking, no, I want to be like Darren. I got to run the chili cook-off, and so number two, I did, and it was amazing. You're right.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. I always said that in Lambda Chi that the beta was a hell of a lot more exciting than the alpha.
yeah,
The alpha had to certainly be our leader, be our
right.
figurehead, but this one got to work,
Yeah,
make
yeah,
things happen,
yeah.
and so Britt did us a great job. I think that was one of the key for us. He very mild mannered, very analytical, right? Rest of us,
Right.
we were just banging off the
Yeah,
walls.
yeah. Anything else about chili cook-off or?
Oh, it was. I remember David England running up to me, and and he was certainly in the spirit, and saying, "That's the best damn time I've ever had, Albus." And it rings in my head, and it really was. It was a blur now,
Yeah,
right?
I
It was a
think when I
blur
did
back
it, I don't
then.
know
We were
what you
just
made
trying to make sure that all the
when you had
cheerleading
it,
teams
but
got handled and whatever. And
I
but
think we were
there
at
plenty of
4,500
big times
net
were had.
to the good,
And
and
what was really interesting
when
when we sat
tuition
down there and
was
we started
pretty
counting
low,
up
and
the
back
money, we
then
thought this
that
is
was
good
pretty
stuff.
good. pretty good money.
Until
Yeah,
we
we
start
didn't
paying
need
that
that
stuff.
4,500.
Yeah.
And then we
promise
this
you
is
that.
we thought we knew what about gross and net and
Right.
fundraising, but that taught us a real big lesson,
Yeah.
right?
So I did have one question. So
Yeah.
when I was planning for the chili cook-off, somebody said, "Okay, we got to go get these um, uh, people mover carts
Hmm.
from the Chamber of Commerce."
Hmm.
And I was like, "Okay, well, how are we going to pull them? Well, we're going to get some tractors. Well, who's going to drive them? We'll get the brother volunteers." And I even at that age, I was thinking, who came up with this idea? And whoever let, young college kids drink and drive tractors with 20 people on these people movers like you see at Six Flags going from that gate you were talking about,
Mhm.
driving all the way back down. How did you get that pulled off to begin with?
Well, we had some experienced drivers. We had a bunch of farm boys in
Sure.
there that maybe they had been drinking some of Daddy's beer when they were plowing. So it was now had the people issue, right?
Right.
So, well, we didn't know anything about liability insurance. Good thing we didn't. But told them, now, damn it, pull it as if Daddy's watching.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
And so maybe they went a little bit slower, but no, that was part of the experience for them too, because it was a little haul, from where we had the park and get down to
It
that
was.
meadow down there. It was a bit, and this way they could hold their beer and drink.
That's true.
While they're going down there, they're getting prepped, right? They're going
Right.
to need more when they get there, and that's the reason we certainly went with. We went back and forth on the chili cook off. Oh, we should have just a brisket or you know some of that. And I said, and it wasn't me. I forget who it was. Said, well, when do people drink the most beer? When their belly's full of steak, or when the mouth's burning with chili?
So some of the young folks that are might be watching this
Hmm.
may be nervous about, oh, I could never do that, or that take too much effort. I mean, what do you say to them that may be kind of on the fence, maybe a little timid, or haven't done something like that before?
Hmm.
Help them understand, that they should lean in.
Well, it's we talked about the goal, but we got to dream big, right?
Okay.
And if we just wanted to have, sell in the corner and sell lemonade, okay, we're not gonna make $4,500.
Right.
We're not going to entertain others. We're not going to show them how great, Lambda Chi is, right? So we had to dream something big that everybody was going to be talking, and that was the talk. Boy, up to that first one, it was a little bit. Everybody's nervous. Man, we made plenty of mistakes. Make no doubt about it. But it was a big time, and then all they were thinking about is, well, what time next year?
Right.
And so you find yourself on the calendar, right? And
Yeah.
you up all your way out. You pick some day on the calendar. Lambda always going to do something the third week of April or the second week of February or whatever it is, and then you plant your flag and you make sure you protect that because you want to stay on that calendar,
Okay. Yeah.
right? And so it's with anything. Family, right? Have reunions. They
Yeah.
they have them on the third, Saturday in July.
Right.
And it's something that flows. And so pick a big event on that date and make sure everyone enjoys themselves.
No, that's good. Any kind of role models that you want to mention and how they might have influenced either just in Tarleton or in Lambda Chi or after?
Yeah. Um, Dr. Guthrie was a big help for us.
Yeah.
Big help. We needed somebody that could walk into back into the leadership at Tarleton and apologize for us. And he did a wonderful job because we made a fair share of mistakes. He come and asked us why we did it, what were we thinking, and we never could really give him a good one initially. Then we started to figure it out that
Yeah.
maybe we should start thinking. But he he made us pause at least for just a second to think, just a little bit more, quit being so impulsive. So he was a good one. The thing that we really liked, and Joe Bauer, I think, mentioned it the other day. Man, we would fight and argue and couldn't have a meeting without six people talking at once. And finally Brent would either bang the gavel or someone else would, or Winfrey would yell out really, really loud, shut the F up, and cause us to pause and come on, guys, we got
Yeah.
things to do here, and we can have all this BS session later. We
Yeah.
got a meeting.
Right.
Let's hold to the agenda. Let's be true to it. Let's make sure everybody understands, the takeaways. And when a guy gives a report, listen, man, he put in some effort. So respect the effort. So
Talking about respect, I think back when I was going through, your older members would like take care of us younger members, and I think over time, uh, sometimes generations want to get that reversed, where they say, "Oh, I'm an older member. I'm entitled to, you should be driving me around. You should be, taking care of me when we're at a party." Versus, I think back in the day, correct me if I'm wrong, but it felt like the older guys, yeah, they were having fun, they were drinking, but they were watching out for us younger guys versus trying to have some idea that the older person ought to be served.
yeah, it's there's a turning point, and everybody needs to know that there's an axis in there, right?
Okay.
From being I'm the protector, right? Okay, so now I have to protect them on the other side. So the way I look at it is we're very fortunate, right? We're something that started over won't be 40 years now, right? And it's still going. And there are a lot of people that say that. So the young men out there right now, they're the ones that are protecting our legacy,
Yeah.
and it's our job to protect them, right? And so they are us. Okay, they're an extension of us, and who wouldn't want a best extension of us?
Right.
And so, every chance I get to meet these young men, I just,
I know you do.
I just fills me with pride, and to see here a couple years ago that we're struggling, right? And I know some great mentorship from yourself, and from Daryl, and several others. James was in there, helping make a little turn, right? And get the Phoenix Award, win that. I mean, what that's awesome, man. You came from ashes,
Right.
and now to see the size of this group, wow,
It's crazy, right?
yeah. There was 13 of us initially. Just remember that.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be with this initiation group. We should hit 825. So that's great.
Mm.
But you're number one.
Mm.
So I've always had the question because normally when we go through and somebody passes through ritual and become full initiated member, they kind of put out last name alphabetical order and then they number off. But
Yeah.
I understand that when a chapter gets chartered, they kind of start the last name numbering after they do the officers, alpha, beta, and they, 1, 2. So Brent was alpha, you were the beta. How did you get number one?
A comes before W. I want to do the last name deal, but they wouldn't. Nobody agreed to that. And in the true spirit that we had, we all were equals.
Okay.
We all had titles, we all had jobs, but we all considered everybody an equal. Okay. And it was our job again to support everybody. So of the original 13, I said this would be the easiest way for all of us. Let's just draw numbers.
Okay.
Okay. So I had to know. I played a lot of golf back then, I thought I was playing golf, but I digress. Had an old U.S. Open. I remember U.S. Open ball cap, white, and that boy, it was well used. So I take this off. We fold up the numbers. We put them in there, and I go walking around with the hat. Everybody pulling.
Okay.
Everybody pull a number, and they're pulling out. There goes 3. There goes 11. There goes 9. They're pulling them all out. We get down there, and I can't remember if Brent was next to last or 2 to last. And he pulls it out, and you can see on his face when he opens it up. What number did you get, Brent? He goes, 2. And I mean, you talk about, that old boy from Freer was plenty mad. But okay, get pulled out. Well, then I went last, right? It's only fair. I was holding the hat. Yeah, and I open it up, and it's 1. How on earth did I get number 1? Now, there have been some conspiracy theories about this.
Okay.
Okay. And, how maybe I knew which number it was, maybe kind of tucked it up underneath the sweatband or something like that, or had held it in my hand and then actually put it back in and pulled it out. And, those are conspiracy theories.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go with that.
Okay.
So the mystery may go unresolved, or uh, it's just a freak of nature. It just happened. It was meant to be, and
Well, A for Albus.
A for Albus.
A for
I like
Albus.
that.
There you
I like
go.
that. Well, hey, Darren, thanks for letting me come over and sit in the man cave and hang out with you a little bit. Uh, you've done a great job in business, in family. Every time I come to see you, there's family here, right? And
Mhm.
so I think that's a tribute to you and wanting to bring everybody together. And I think we've all probably learned something today. It was a great story. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you being on the podcast.
And it's absolutely my pleasure, my friend and my brother.
All right.
All right.
I love you, brother.
I love
Thanks.
you.
We'll do it again.
All right.
Hey, thanks everybody for joining this
Thanks, everybody.
episode of Chops on Top. On behalf of Darren Albus, Phi-Rho #1, I'm your host, Will Waller, Phi-Rho 58. Don't forget, foundation built on brotherhood, but continues through diligence.